What's up, beautiful people? In today's video, I want to talk about how to start a small-scale broiler poultry farm. Yes, a small-scale broiler poultry farm. I'm going to be giving you facts from the foundation to the structure, feeding, kind of equipment that are necessary for your farm, and even your marketing. With also parts information that has to do with the accounting part, because this is a business venture, so your numbers has to be right. Okay, let's get started. There are different breeds of broiler chickens in Nigeria that I'm very sure of. I don't know about other countries, because some countries they do have some different names, but they are quite similar. The essence of telling you about the breeds of broiler is that your market will determine the kind of breeds of chicken that you stock in, and also the environment you are in. Like Nigeria is blessed with different temperature. Up north is usually very hot during the dry season, and down south it can also be warm during the dry season too, but it's not as hot as it is in the north. So the temperature difference are also there. So that's why I'm using Nigeria, where I am from and reside, as a case study in my analysis. So the breeds of chicken, we have Ross 308, Cup 500, Aboika, and the Masha breeds. These breeds of chicken are the ones that are very common in Nigeria. The Ross 308, Cup 500, Aboika, and the Masha. The Ross 308 is a very common breed with big commercial farms, in the sense that they grow fast between 0 to 6 weeks, and they can get up to 3 kg within that 6 weeks. So this is always ideal for farmers that are doing commercial farm that just want to bring in birds and sell them off at 6 weeks and make their quick cash, especially when their market is people that do frozen chicken, eateries, and maybe people that roast chicken on the streets, with some home consumers too as well. These are birds of 6 weeks that can give you 3 kg live weight. So maybe after slaughtering them you get about 2.5 or thereabout. So one thing about the Ross 308, they can adapt to cold weather better. When the weather is too hot, it tends to be a challenge for them, and their growth rate is best between 0 to 6 weeks, in the sense that after 6 weeks their growth rate drops. That's the feed conversion, and the birds are usually short and chubby. So that's all about the Ross 308. And next is the Cup 500. Cup 500, they grow best between 6 to 8 weeks. The Cup 500 can adapt to heat better than the Ross 308, and their growth rate is best between 6 to 8 weeks. So within 6 to 8 weeks they'll add more weight. So even after 6 weeks, the birds will still be shooting. It's not like they don't grow well before 6 weeks, but it's just that between 6 to 8 weeks they add more weight and they have that height. So people that sell in the markets, and people that want to do all this brood and sell, and also people that are staying in the northern part of the country where the weather is a bit warm, this Cup 500 is best for them. Or basically during the dry season when the weather is generally hot, Cup 500 is ideal to stock up. The next is the Aboika. The Aboika can do well even in hot and cold region. They are like birds in between the Cup 500 and the Ross 308, but their growth rate is not as fast as the Cup 500 and the Ross 308, in the sense that they add up to 3 kg between 7 to 8 weeks. Another thing, these Aboika are usually strong birds, strong species of birds, in the sense that they are a bit dogged. So people that sell in the markets, in the flea market, will also be okay with rearing this Aboika. And they're also good for people that are doing some commercial farms, because they also find a way in some frozen markets and stuff like that because of the 7 to 6 weeks growth rate. So it's also ideal too. Then the next is the Masha. The Masha breeds of broilers are broilers that grow very tall and giant within 12 weeks. Within 0 to 12 weeks, they grow very big, just like the name implies. They are Masha, they grow very big with big feet and stuff like that. These are basically the common breeds of chicken we have in the country. So with this in mind, You then have to now study your market. Who are the people that you intend to sell to? What are the kind of breeds of chicken that will be best for them, and the environment you reside? This will now influence your choice of the breed of chicken to go for. The next thing we'll be talking about is the housing. Before you set up a pen for 100 birds, 100 birds will require about 8 by 16 feet poultry pen. That's the length will be 16 feet and the width will be 8 feet. So with this space, it can accommodate 100 birds comfortably. And while you're putting up the structure, you need to ensure that the walls are not higher than 3 feet. Reasons why, if they're higher than 3 feet, the tendency of ventilation getting to the floor parts where the birds are might be a bit difficult. So it's not too good for your walls to be too high, but it needs to come up a little bit. Rain splashes will not just get into the pen, or maybe creeping stuff will not just creep in through the net to access where the birds are. So you just raise the size wall up a little bit to prevent water splashing into them, and also make sure that it's not too high, not higher than 3 feet, for them to get ventilation. Then the upper parts after the walls, you need to use wire mesh or nets that do not have too much hole space that will allow wild birds to pass through. You need to use a wire mesh that will prevent wild birds and restrict movement of people from just accessing the birds easily. While you're planning on setting up a small-scale poultry farm, it's best you run a small-scale farm inside of town or close proximity to town, because of the fact that supplying or getting buyers to come and buy from you when your farm is running on a small scale at a location that is very far from town might pose to be a challenge. So if you're running a small scale poultry farm, it's best to do it inside of town, where accessibility to customers or you reaching out to your customers will be much easier. One of the challenges I noticed about people that sell in the flea market when they want to buy chicken, especially when you're buying in small quantity, they want to buy from farms that are close to town, that are close proximity to their market, so that they don't spend much on transportation going far to buy few birds, so that when they make sales, their profit margin can cover up their transportation costs very comfortably. To a large extent, they like buying from farms that are within town when the numbers are small. If maybe you find yourself in a situation whereby you're the one to supply your customers the chicken, if your place is inside of town, it will be much easier for you to locate them than if your place is far away from town, because that would be a challenge, and it will be easier for you to get your raw materials and other things that will be required to run the farm. Unlike someone that's running a big scale that can just pay for trucks to just take them down to his or her farm, the sizes and the quantity of the birds will always cover up for the cost of those transportation to a far location. Then the next thing, while putting up your structure of your poultry farm, you need to make sure that the back walls are facing east and west. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So when the back walls are facing east and west, it shades the birds from having direct sunlight in their pen that will cause more heat. So positioning of your farm structure will really help a long way, because chickens need ventilation for proper survival and good growth. So the way you position your poultry pen will also help your birds to get more ventilation and grow best for you. The next on our list is the equipment that we're using. That is the feeders and the drinkers. I'll start with the drinkers. In Nigeria, we have a popular kind of drinkers that comes in 4 liters and 10 liters. So if you're brooding, you need to use at least 2 4-liter cans for 100 birds. If peradventure you're using only one, you need to make sure that water is always available. Even if you're using 2, you always make sure that your birds have access to water. So using 2 will be ideal to reduce movement of persons inside your poultry pen. Note that humans are one of the major carriers of illness in poultry farming. So your ability to give them enough water and enough feed, spreading them so that the birds have access to feed all at the same time and easy access to water too, will help their growth, for them to have uniformity in their growth, and it will also reduce your movement inside of your poultry pen. Once you give them feed and water in the morning, that might take them through the whole day. So maybe the number of times you might be going to your poultry pen maybe 2 or 3 times. With that in mind, you need to use two 4-liter drinkers for 100 beds, and you use this drinker for about a week or let's say 8 days. Then afterwards, you use the 10 liters drinker. Then the feeders. The birds will need about 4 of the feeders. So when you're starting out brooding, you need to use this plastic feeder. The possibility of waste is very minimal, unlike using the tray. Then after a week and some few days, you can now switch to this big feeder where they can be able to reach out to the feed inside of the feeder. The essence of using this big feeder is for them to always have access to feed, because this big feeder will store more feed than the smaller ones. So after a week, when the birds have grown up a little bit, their consumption will pick up a little bit. So you have to change the kind of feeder you use to give them feed, but not changing all entirely. You give them some, and while you still use the small feeder sometime, maybe do a ratio of 2:2 or 2:1 as the case might be. Then gradually, when they get to the height of feeding very well from the big feeder, you use just only the big feeder. But try to make sure that you have enough feeders that will make them to have all access to feeds simultaneously for uniform growth. Then in the case whereby you have access to nipple drinkers are the best source of water for poultry farming, in the sense that they just put their mouth on the nipples and the water drops into their mouth. The possibility of them messing up the water is zero, and birds that might fall into one thing will not be gulping their mouth into the water like what we have in the normal conventional drinking can. In this case, mortality and the flow of illness is very minimal. If you have access to a nipple drinker, that's best. Another drinker that is common too is the bell drinker, automated bell drinker. So any of these will serve to a large extent. If you're using a nipple drinker, you need about 10 to 15 nipple drinkers for 100 beds. For instance, if you're stocking in Ross 308 that will stay for 6 weeks in your farm, you need to stock in about 20 bags of feed that will take care of 100 beds. That is to say, 50 beds will need 10 bags of feed. Note that a bag of feed in Nigeria comes in 25 kg bags. So 25 kg bag of feed, about 10 of them will run 50 beds. Why I'm also mentioning 50 beds, in the sense that a carton of day-old chicks come in 50s. So if peradventure you're starting out with 50 beds, you need to make sure that you have 10 bags of feed. I will note again, having feeds available at your farm when you're stocking beds will save you a lot of stress and a lot of headache, in the sense that when these birds stay longer period of time without feed, it exposes them to drop weight and also exposes them to their immune system being dropped, and you don't want that to happen to your birds, because the broiler birds spend very short period of time at the farm, which during that period they are supposed to just gain weight for you to sell as quick as possible to make profits, because the early you sell them off, the faster you make profits. And if you're able to sell them at the right timing, you get more profit. For instance, I'll use this Ross 38 as a case study. If you keep the Ross 38 above 6 weeks, you end up spending more, and the feed conversion drops, which will not be beneficial to you. So within the 6 weeks, you make sure that they have enough feeds that will carry them through, because I'm saying this from huge experience. Financial constraint could be a challenge. Putting your hopes or having faith that maybe you just get money while you're renting them to get feed might supposed to be a challenge. But if you have the feeds on standby, it will help you a long way. Another thing to consider is this: be very sure about the brands of feed that you are going for, because some brands of feed might pose to be a challenge or might not make your birds grow very well. So about making choice of brand of feed, always make inquiries from fellow farmers within your area about the best choice of brand of feed that will grow fast and give you a quick result within the short period of time that you intend to rear your broiler birds. Then a week to when your birds are getting close to market size, you have to do massive marketing. Every business person is supposed to be good at marketing. Even if you're not born a marketer, you can always learn. We have online platforms and all of that. You can reach out to people, but make sure that the message goes out and people to be aware that you have chickens for sale, so that once they get to that maturity stage, you can sell them as quick as possible to make your profits. So thanks for watching this video. If you like what you just heard or seen, you can smash the like button. If you're new to this channel, I will encourage you to subscribe to this channel to grow the algorithm, so that these videos will get to more people for them to get to learn more. Thanks for watching this far. See you on the next one. Bye bye.